What's happening, everyone? Welcome. Now, our last video went viral when we talked about Canelo versus Jamal. So I'd like to open up with just some opening statements so you understand our official position, right? One, we would prefer to see the Canelo versus Benavidez fight. Two, Canelo fighting Charlo is a cherry pick, but it's always been a cherry pick. Three, Canelo can do whatever the hell he wants. Four, we recognize that Canelo is an all-time great, a living legend. And we are witnessing history in the making. Okay, those last few are over the top, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that we disagree with any of this stuff. I want to welcome the rest of the crew here, and they have their own opinions. But if anybody disagrees with me, you could let me know. We got Georgie with Off the Ropes Boxing and MMA, Julian with Off the Ropes Boxing and MMA, and the hired gun of this show, Run PMC. What's happening, fellas?
Going on, man. Good morning.
Man, I'm ready to talk about it, dude. Canelo has signed a 3-fight deal with the PBC, man. And, well, I think it surprised a number of people that it was a 3-fight deal. Canelo has walked away from a potential Bivol fight, a potential Badu Jack cruiserweight fight. And it looks like he's going to line up the Charlos and possibly the Benavidez's of the world. Well, actually, there's a lot of options. 3 fights. Let's talk about it. Georgie, what are your thoughts about this news, man?
Hey, I'm excited for it. I think with the news, everybody's kind of been on the edge of their seat trying to figure out what Canelo's going to do. Everybody making assumptions and throwing out, oh, he's ducking Benavidez. Like I said, a bunch of accusations all over the place. Everybody has their opinion and what they wanted and what they're looking for. We've been very, I guess, vocal in the text messages as far as what we're all looking for, what we wanted, and each one of us has our own opinion. I didn't know which way he was going to go. I mean, first we thought it was Benavidez immediately after the Morrell fight. They said he was mandatory. There's video of him also saying that he was a mandatory like the last 2-3 years. It's hard to really believe anybody. At the end of the day, you want some paper trail or show us something in writing.
Facts.
But then I always feel like, why would somebody just throw that out there? Because I mean, it could be easily disproven. So I always say, if you're gonna go out there on live or say or go out there and say what it is, I don't see what the point would be, and is when people can just go ahead and fact check or check your paperwork, check your receipts, as they say. Again, I didn't know exactly where he was going to go with this. I thought it was going to be, at first we all thought it was Bivol. It didn't happen. Certain things didn't go the way it should have, with Bivol not, I guess, declaring whatever it is he had to in the WBC. So that kind of put a halt to it. And then also that Canelo was saying it was the same contract or same things along the line of what the first fight was. We could sit and assume what it might be, but no one really knows exactly what those contracts really look like. I'm hearing that actually it took like Bivol like 6 months to get some money finally in that fight, and he actually got paid less than the Callum Smith. So don't know what that's about, but it didn't happen. The Bivol fight didn't happen. Okay, fine. You know what? Move on. Benavidez didn't happen. So again, we're not sure exactly where this was going. I don't want to ramble on, but I am excited to see that. Yeah, it is PBC for one at 168. That's where all the players are at 168. And the last puzzle piece at 168 would be Canelo, and him now signing a 3-fight contract, a 3-fight deal with PBC. I'm excited for it to see what happens. I think it's a great move, and it also saves PBC, because we really don't know what they look like. I mean, they could say they're going bankrupt or whatever, but no one really knows. Maybe I the way I said is I think PBC was holding these cards really tight to their chest like a poker game, waiting for the right time. And I feel like this was the right time in PBC, threw all their cards on the table, and can't be any happier than to see what would be next for Canelo there with that 3-fight deal.
All right, man, that's good stuff. I want to give a warm welcome to our homie Nando Llamas, who said Team Bivol played themselves. They can't blame nobody else. Yep, they lost the bag, man. They played hooky for too long, bro. They were playing chicken. They thought they could make that money, and now it looks like somebody else is going to get paid. Bivol will never, ever, ever see that type of money again. Want to give a warm shout out to Dors Matador, who says, now all the Canelo naysayers happy. Why doesn't he fight the fights we want? He's cheating, LOL. Yeah, you know what? We're hearing all kinds of weird things. Like, they're kind of happy that he's with the PBC, but also not happy. Like, they're never happy. But Julian, what do you think about this news, man?
You know what, man? Well, you guys already know I'm one of the biggest Canelo fans here. So but I'm not being biased on this whole thing. Yes, I do want the Benavidez versus Canelo fight. Yes, I do want it. I've wanted it. I mean, I've even called it on our shows. I've even said this is going to be a good fight. For Canelo, maybe even Dave Benavidez to become a star. I've said it in the past. The PBC contract, I love it, because I've heard about it a couple of weeks, and then finally became a signed deal, a done deal. I think it's just a good move. Yes, Charlo, I guess you could say, is a cherry pick, now, but this is what he was calling for in 2018, 2019, yes. But now the people are getting what they want, in Charlo's world, and this is about to just line them all up pretty much, this is going to line them up. I'm thinking we're going to see a Dave Benavidez fight maybe next year early, maybe, possibly, or maybe we could skip that and maybe possibly get a September date for them next year, but I really do want to see a Dave Benavidez versus Canelo fight, but yes, I mean, Canelo wants to smoke. This is where all 168 is right now, like I said, just hearing all this stuff too, David Morrell and Benavidez, there's a bunch of different things. Munguia in the mix now, a bunch of different things. Bubo Andrade's in the mix now, so it's just, it's a PBC, I mean, you got to give it to PBC this year. I mean, this is their year. They did, like George said, they did play a little chess match this year, and they came out with it, and I mean, they're making these fights. They're going to make these fights happen. As much as I hate Al Heyman, but hey, he's getting it done.
That's right, man. Good stuff. Now, Run, I don't think we've talked about this whole Canelo versus Charlo thing, so I really don't know your stance. I don't know what you think about Showtime as a platform in general versus Zone and their outreach, and how many pay-per-views they could generate with Canelo Alvarez being over there. We know they did 900,000 with Caleb Plant, right? And he wasn't much of a draw himself, so I think Canelo and Showtime together are going to do great numbers. What are your thoughts about this news overall, man?
No, I'm definitely happy about the news because of how boxing is. I mean, maybe it's always like this, but you just have to go where the players are in the division. And Canelo being the top of the division, but you unfortunately might have to sign with the promoter or promoting entity to get the fights, and that's what Canelo had to do. And regarding Charlo, I mean, it would have been cool to see it a few years ago, but that didn't happen. So it's all good. And I'm just glad we're getting it now. But like we said, I thought Charlo would have been had a better chance a few years ago, but I never picked him to beat Canelo. So it's all good that we're seeing it now. I just hope we get the Benavidez fight. That's really the only one I care about. So it looks like that's in the card. So I'm happy about that. Regarding pay-per-views, I don't know. I mean, Canelo sells, so I don't really think it matters where he sells, but I think he might do better numbers. This is just anecdotal. He might do better numbers on Showtime just because I think there's a good amount of boxing fans that are still tied to. They might not want to have the Zone subscription and then pay the extra fee. They might just want to, even though it might be more money, they might want to just put down on one pay-per-view and just have it like an event. So I think it'll be a good pay-per-view sell for the Charlo fight.
Yeah, dude. Now let's talk about this fight just a little bit. Now we all want the Benavidez fight, okay? Don't get it misconstrued, but some opening odds have come out for this fight. Now, these are some tight odds. Canelo is opened up at only a -240 favorite. Jamal Charlo is a 2-1 underdog. Now, just as a reference, I can't think back. I remember the Bivol odds were tight, right? And the last time the odds were tight, I think Canelo was a 3-1 favorite against Kovalev. That's how far you have to go back. And this guy's less than a 3-1 favorite now. Like, these odds are extremely tight for a guy who's been out of the ring for 2 years. I find this to be a little bit surprising. George, what do you think about the fact that these odds are closer than any other fight Canelo's had in many years? Does Jamal Charlo warrant these type of close odds?
I'm gonna say yes. I think so. Just a couple factors in it, right? Yeah, Charlo hasn't fought in 2 years. He's coming up in weight, and Vegas knows something we don't, right? They usually are pretty close with their odds, and you know how far they are from what the truth is, and I think those factors, yes, it is 2 years out. It is his first fight at 168, and I think what I think what they're going with is maybe the last few performances, right? I mean, yes, he won. He did beat Triple G. I mean, he lost to Bivol. Yes, he beat Triple G. He did beat John Ryder. I think with that, I think maybe that's why they're playing into why the odds are that close. And even if this was a couple years ago and with an active Charlo, like I think the odds would have still been in Canelo's favor, would be a 2-1 favor. I mean, I think it's just that good of a fight. Yeah, Charlo hasn't fought in, some big names, or haven't had really hasn't had like that coming out fight. But I feel like with this, I just feel like this is going to be the fight where he's got to come out and he's going to show out. And I mean, everybody gets up for the big fight, right? You kind of usually play to like the level of your competition. It's going to be interesting, but I'm not disappointed with the 2-1. I think it's pretty close.
Damn. Well, you know what, dude? I'm trying to think back, and I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't think there have been odds this close since like the second Golovkin fight, bro. Like it's been a long time since I've seen anything like this. Julian, what do you think about the odds being close? Or are you just expecting Canelo to just spark out Jamal in September?
The whole thing is, the size is going to be the factor here. Even though Canelo's faced size already, but I just think, maybe the length might give Canelo a problem. If Charlo can get if he can get that jab in his face, then maybe he'll give Canelo some big time problems. But I do see Canelo. I mean, yes, the odds are kind of close. I would expect right now, being the fact that it's 2-1, but I mean, I do see Canelo winning this fight late rounds. Charlo's, like I said, the 2-year layoff is just too much. I think, but it's in Charlo's backyard too. I mean, that's another reason too. I think the odds are so close.
I mean, that's true. Plus, maybe PBC can pay some judges. No, I'm not going to go there quite yet. Run, what do you think about the fight in particular? You told me you're okay with it. You'd rather have the Benavidez fight, but as far as the matchup goes, why don't we get an early prediction from the hired gun, Run PMC? Like, what are your thoughts on the actual fight itself? Is this a close fight in your mind?
It's hard to tell. I mean, I would say my gut feeling, I think Canelo is going to be probably unanimous decision. It's going to be around 8-4, I would say. I can't say if there'll be a knockdown or not, but I just think it's too much downtime for Charlo, who really, I mean, I was always more of a Jamal Charlo fan than Jermell, but outside of his victory against Julian Williams, who hasn't really, I guess, lived up to the hype he was given, he really hasn't had a significant win, in my opinion. So I really think Canelo might just walk through him, but the height and the length might give him an issue, potentially, especially since Charlo, like vintage Charlo, has a really good, like, shotgun-like jab, and I think Charlo might be the same height, if not taller than Bivol. Different style, but still. But I just think it's too much downtime, too much personal stuff going on for Charlo for him to be successful.
I want to give a shout out to Nando here, who says that the Charlos and Spence are the same size or bigger than Canelo. I guess only Loma gets to cry about that, though. I hear you there, Nando. And he says Canelo hasn't looked dominant for a while. Well, I think that could be part of it, right? I mean, we all agree that Canelo hasn't looked the best in a little while. It's been a little bit of time. And I think this might be the right time to fight Jamal. I mean, we all know that Jamal ducked the smoke in 2019. And here's my thing. Sometimes you look at matchups that were bound to happen. And sometimes we think, oh, well, if this fight would have happened at a different time, things could have been different, right? A good example would be Mayweather versus Pacquiao. Yeah, Pacquiao was always younger than Mayweather, but we thought, a younger Pacquiao would have had a better shot against a younger Mayweather, even though Mayweather was always older, right, than Pacquiao. We thought, Pacquiao, like at prime 147, would have had a better shot. See, I always thought that Canelo, no matter what time frame we're looking at, 154, 160, 168, doesn't matter. I think Canelo was always going to spark out Jamal Charlo. Jamal Charlo's got nowhere to go. His legs aren't like that. Dude's hittable. But you know what? It's like you said, Run, and like you guys have been saying, Jamal Charlo is actually a pretty good size, right? I mean, when he was standing next to Bivol, talking dumb, like, "Oh, let's fight for undisputed," and like, he's like, "What do you mean? Neither of us can fight at once." It was like a dumb conversation, like, "Let's fight at 168 for the belts," right? I don't know if you guys remember that little highlight, but they were talking, and you could see that Jamal was actually notably bigger than Bivol. Bivol's not the biggest guy in the world. Jamal is a good size. He's not going to have to shrink down. That 2-year layoff. Now, like, I am curious about that, and I can't think of any time in recent history where a fighter has come back after 2 years and has taken such a meaningful fight. Keith Thurman was out for 2 years, right? And then he fought Josecito Lopez and then fought a Pacquiao, right? Then he fought his legend. But I can't really think of any other time when there's been 2. Go ahead, George.
I think the most famous one is Sugar Ray Leonard.
Did he come back after 2 years?
Against Hagler. I might be wrong, but I think that's one of them. I think that was a 2-year layoff. I could be wrong. I've heard it. I heard it a couple of times.
What about George Foreman?
George Foreman, man, that was more than 2 years.
Hey, I'm just saying.
But he must have come back against some soft touches, right? He didn't come back and fight the man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, understood. But I'm just saying. Just put it out there.
No, for sure, man. You know, and I think this is a nice little, opening contract type fight, right? Now, when Canelo signed with the Zone, he got Rocky Fielding. He fought him in December. It was like, hey, this is an introduction. Like, let's get you out there. And then he took care of Fielding easy, right? And I think Jamal, they've been waiting to cash him out for a while. Like, he might take a loss anyways. He didn't look great in the Montiel fight, right? I think we all agree on that.
Would you say that Charlo's a liability right now to PBC? Is this the reason you think they're trying to cash him out?
That's what I think. Cash him out. Like, and right now, I'm telling you, 1 million pay-per-view buys. I'm calling it. That fight is gonna do really well.
Me too. Yeah, 1.1. I'm saying about 1.1 even close. I think so. I agree.
Yeah, dude. I'm telling you, man, it's just a matter of time before Canelo just starts laying people out at the PBC. And also, people might not like the fight right now, but down the line, as this fight gets closer, people are going to start entertaining this fight more and more. And say you don't like Canelo. Well, you're going to watch anyways, but say you don't like him, like, you might be able to talk
I'm just going to say the PBC fanboys, bro. Just say it like that, bro. Say it like that.
The cult. I call him the cult. Right?
Me too.
If they're watching, bro, like, just enjoy it because you got nothing to lose. It's kind of win-win. Nobody's expecting Jamal to win, but you could start making an argument in your head as to why he would have a good chance against this fading Canelo. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, I think Charlo, he's like a counter fighter. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup because, Canelo is also a counter fighter. So he's going to be coming forward and it's going to be kind of like a tit for tat. I think no one's really going to take initiative soon or too early on, not to make a mistake. But I think Charlo's he is a good counter fighter. He's got the length, like they said. He's got, I think, his jab and his straight right hand are his two best attributes. So I don't know. You guys are talking. I'm thinking this in my head and I'm playing it out. I think it might go. And even when it was announced, of course, I was like, picturing how this is going to go. So it's going to be a good fight. And maybe to me, that's the reason why I feel like this is, again, the odds are a little bit closer. Just the styles are just, it's going to be a good matchup.
Man, great stuff, and I thought about that too. Like when I envisioned the fight in my head, I thought that they would both be starting slow, taking their time, feeling each other out, and I think Canelo, more than feeling Charlo out, I feel like he's just going to take his time in general because that benefits him to maybe bank some early rounds, start off slow, and then start opening up, right? But I think Jamal is going to start slow out of respect for Canelo's power. Now, I've heard a theory that Jamal can't respect Canelo and he just needs to go in, not pay this dude any respect, and that's his best shot, right? I guess go for broke, right? And I could see that being a strategy. I mean,
what do you got to lose? I mean, what does he have to lose at that point? Because like I said, I mean, he's putting his zero on the line, which is something that he's really never faced the top competitor with, and Canelo's really, I mean, Canelo has a chin. We all know that, I mean, he's taking some hard shots from some big men and with some rock hard hands, and I just don't think Charlo has that power to even like put Canelo like into the ropes, other than like pushing him down into his side, using his weight. That's about it, like this. That's all I see.
Man,
that he can do, but yeah, I mean, sorry, Charlo fans.
Dos Matador here says it's funny how all of a sudden Jamal's mental illness has disappeared. He's not crying for a tune-up. Money does work wonders. Well, it sure does. And that's the thing. We're going to talk about tune-ups, mandatories, because, well, the one person who's been left out in the cold, and I want to also talk about what Nando here says because it adds to it. He says there's a possibility that Canelo fights Jermell and Spence. If Spence and Jermell are dominant in their big fights and Benavidez gets worked by Morrell, what next? Now, I do want to talk about David Benavidez, right? Because he seems to be left out in the cold, at least for this September, right? I think we're all expecting Canelo to fight Benavidez with this 3-fight contract, but that's if he gets through his next fight unscathed, right? Now, we all know that David Benavidez was ranked number 1 by the WBC, but if Canelo is going to fight Charlo, well, I mean, they're just doing it because they can do it, and everybody's going to allow it. That puts Benavidez out in the cold. Okay, now we all know what's been going on with what Samson has been saying, right? Talking, okay? Benavidez Sr. has been running his mouth, right? But they've all gotten quiet recently. And we know why, right? Because, well, there was all this work that was, they were supposed to take care of, the monster. And then David Morrell, right, has come out and has been calling out Benavidez. And there's all kinds of contract signed, not signed. Yes, it's official, right? I mean, this is a source of Dan Raphael. The Benavidez camp has come out and said, no, this fight is not official. And they've been quiet ever since. Okay. And I want to talk about this now. Before I get into it, let me just give you guys a little bit more context, and then I'm going to kick it right to you guys. Okay. So this is what Morrell Sr. had to say recently. He said, I would love to fight Morrell, right? But Morrell is not there yet, in my opinion. He needs a little bit more fans, maybe like about 2 or 3 more fights. He said this just recently. Okay. Now, I don't know where this idea is that Cubans are going to get more fans, in general. They don't sell. So, I mean, to me, that sounds like a little bit of duck talk to me, maybe. Right. And I also want to know, Georgie, I'm going to kick it to you right away. Like, should we expect Benavidez to fight a Morrell if he doesn't fight Canelo next? Like, what are your thoughts in general about all this?
I mean, there are some names out there, right? I mean, yeah, it would be very interesting as far as boxing fans to see a Morrell fight. But there also is, there's an Andrade out there. I'm not really too interested in Munguia. I don't think he meant like Munguia's next. I think he just mentioned that he would be open to fighting Munguia. But I mean, as fight fans, like, I mean, the Morrell fight, man, that thing is that's a crazy good fight. It's dangerous. But at the end of the day, like if Benavidez does take on Morrell next, I mean, it shows just how big his balls are, and he's that confident to know that him fighting a dangerous fighter in Morrell, that Canelo fight is down the line waiting for him. So as a fight fan, I mean, yeah, I would love to see the Morrell fight and Benavidez. I don't see anything wrong. I don't see a reason why that fight shouldn't happen.
All right. And I want to read what Morrell had to say about Benavidez not stepping up right now. He said, and these are quotes, right? And Morrell has doubled down and retweeted this shit and said, yes, it's me talking all this shit over here, right? He said, David Benavidez is a big bitch. His dad is a big fraud, always talking like he's some tough guy, but he's just a small man with a little man complex. His brother wants to be a gangster who talks a lot of shit, but he got knocked out by Crawford and did a horrible job in the movie Creed. The Benavidezes are a bunch of cowards. This is the guy you call the Mexican monster. He's a fraud. This is the guy everyone is building up. I see a fat, insecure boy. That's what I see. Benavidez couldn't walk down Knee Street in Cuba without getting his shoes taken. Funny he calls Canelo a duck. Who's the duck now? Julian, what do you think about this, man?
This is like factual source. David Morrell didn't say that.
He's retweeting it, so he's got some good media people.
Yeah, he obviously is. But like just like from his camp, from his trainer alone too. I mean, David Morrell's pretty much a humble kid, bro. Like he's really a humble cat. He wants these big fights too, though. And I've already said too. I mean, this is probably the most complete fighter, that people aren't giving much credit for right now. He has a strong back line, of fighting. Yes, he's 9-0 against whom? Yes, some people ask. But this dude is dangerous, bro. Like I even have him possibly beating Canelo. That's my boy, bro. That's a high risk, low reward thing for David Benavidez right now. And Dave Benavidez just, I mean, if he grabs his nuts and takes this fight, I mean, this kid's gonna have to work hard for that fight, man. And honestly, I mean, David Morrell is gonna come at him, and I mean, I give David Morrell big props too. I mean, for coming at him. I mean, if at all true, the way he did, but I just see I mean, David Morrell and David Benavidez just makes sense right now. To me. I mean, yes, everybody wants Canelo and Benavidez, but it's just not going to happen that way. I mean, we already know Charlo's already there. Charlo's already in the line. So, I mean, yes, we'll see the winner of that fight Canelo, I think, in the second fight, and that's what I'm hoping for. I'm really hoping David Benavidez will come out, so we could actually see some Mexicans throw down how we want to see it, but yeah, like I said, I mean, it's a big, man, it's just Benavidez camp just really got quiet on this one, I've shared all week, with you guys, some of this shit, like what the hell's going on? Then all of a sudden, bam, we get hit with the curveball. So, but yeah, I mean, it's boxing for you right now.
It is, dude. Good stuff. Now, Ron, you've been watching boxing for a long time like the rest of us, and I know how you feel about Canelo versus Lara. Right now, Canelo already faced his first problematic Cuban, like at what, 24 years old? To me, it wouldn't be out of line to have Benavidez fight Morrell first. I mean, if you're naturally fighting all the other guys in the division because Canelo's tied up, he's choosing to get tied up, right? We would prefer the Benavidez fight, but say Canelo's going to take his time. Say they're going to milk this fight just a little bit. Ron, is it out of line for us to expect Benavidez to fight Morrell next? And how would you see that fight going right now?
I don't think it's out of line to expect it just because there are a limited number of boxers at 168 right now. So I don't see that being out of line to ask for it. Will it happen? I have my doubts if it will happen because Dave Morrell, even though he has limited experience, obviously is very dangerous. And if you have a potential like big lucrative fight for you, it would be a major risk to fight a player like David Morrell if you're David Benavidez. So I don't know. I mean, it's so hard to tell just because you might not have seen Morrell or Benavidez in there with that caliber of fighter yet. So it's really hard for me to say who would win. I mean, I'll lean towards David Benavidez, but that's more of just a gut feeling. I really couldn't even break it down for you like that just because they haven't really seen each other's styles. But Morrell definitely is really talented. I was watching some of his fights this week, and he definitely seems complete, especially at a young age. And it's like, he definitely is, experience beyond what his record shows, I think is the best way to say it. Because
Perfect.
some of the things you see, I'm just like, you think like in some of the earlier fights I was watching, I'm like, you think he's limited, but then in the next fight he might show you something different. So it's hard for me to tell. And I haven't necessarily always been the biggest Morrell supporter or believer in that, but I think from watching this week, I just saw a little more things that I thought were actually there. So yeah, I mean, I would lean towards David, but I think that might be because I want to see the fight.
Which David? They're both David, man.
Sorry. David Benavidez. That's right.
It.
Right. But I don't know. That'd be a great fight. I'd like to see it. But I find it hard for PBC to make that fight just because they know the Canelo fight's going to be there. But then at the same time, why wouldn't it be there for? I don't know if Benavidez, if you put him on paper against Canelo, would be. I don't know who would be David Benavidez or David Morrell would be the biggest seller. I think it might be relatively close, but because I don't know how big of a following David Benavidez has, honestly. So it's hard for me to say, but I would like to. Man, it just has me thrown with this question. It has me thrown.
Yeah,
but
you made a good point though, Ren.
He made a great point. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, George.
I would say because
go ahead.
Right, if Benavidez is the one that everybody's calling for, and
right.
Even if we say he doesn't have like a very big base, but like just think about from professional boxers to ex-fighters to people that really don't know boxing, like everybody's calling Benavidez name.
Right.
I feel like I don't think the Morrell fight will happen next, only because like knowing the big picture is the Benavidez and Canelo. So I think that's a great point. I don't think they would want to risk that, even though
right.
Morrell, if he was to beat Benavidez, like it would be that big of a fight too. But I'm sure that could change tide and people would be calling for the Canelo and Morrell. But right now, the big thing, I mean, all polls show that it is the Benavidez. So I don't think we would see Morrell and Benavidez next. I think it'd be somebody else. I mean, I don't see why they couldn't put like an Andrade in there. Like I think Andrade would be like a good name in the meantime.
For Benavidez?
Yeah, for Benavidez.
Yeah.
So the 34-year-old prospect. Come on, man. Come on, bro. Stop it already with that, man.
Hey, it's a name, bro. At the end of the day, it's a name. People know who he is. He's also been calling out Canelo's name. Why not? It'd be a good name on Benavidez's resume, regardless
Right.
of what Andrade has done.
For the record, I was a big time Boo Boo fan back early in his career, and George knows this. George knows this. I was a big time Boo Boo fan, bro, till all this bull crap started. You know, he started freaking just going the other route, bro. But yeah, like honestly, like right now, like Boo Boo's just on my shit list. So I mean, I'm always gonna talk shit about him right now. I'm sorry.
Dos Matador here says that Morrell can barely speak English. Now he writes hate comments. The Jose being a bad actor actually is funny. Yeah, I did think that was funny. Like he was just taking choice shots at the whole family, right? I mean, that's how I do it, right? He might as well troll. That's the thing. Like, I feel like the Benavidez team and the camp in general, they talked themselves into a corner with this whole like Mexican monster, big talk, right? And it's like you've set yourself up to have Morrell call you out, and now you're quiet. Like, it's just a bad look. Now, no, Georgie, I want to go back to you real quick. So you're saying that the Morrell versus Benavidez fight wouldn't happen next. Are you saying that they're going to selectively avoid Morrell because it's too much of a risk? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is part of it. There is the risk, of course. High risk, low reward, right? I mean, hardcores like us, we know who Morrell is and what he brings to the table. But business-wise, we know that Benavidez and Canelo make sense at the end of the day, like in that third fight, if that's the way Canelo's going.
Well, here's the thing.
Go ahead.
No, brother, go ahead.
No, well, the whole thing is too, though. I mean, this is an easy fight to make because it's in house, bro. Now, I mean, now you want all the best fighting each other. You want to prove your mark now. Why not? Why not? I mean, just if you want to prove yourself now, I mean, yes, George, we do want this fight. I wanted this fight today, Benavidez Canelo fight.
You're right, but I think it's a business at the end of the day.
Yes, yeah, it is, and I just think it's just a build-up, you know. And I just think, you know, to get David Morrell and David Benavidez together, you know, in one fight together, bro, just to see who the hell is gonna, right there, I think it's gonna tell us, you know, like who's gonna come at the king, you know, who's gonna go after it.
Now, do you think if Morrell wins, do you think Canelo takes Morrell?
No shit. I
don't see what I mean. It's a business, bro. It's a business.
Not right away. I don't think the second fight he will, but I think he'll wait till after the third fight to do it. But I do think he won't take it the second fight. I think just depending on how the outcome is, you know, the fight. So what if Morrell does beat the living shit out of Dave Benavidez, or vice versa?
Or what if Jamal gives Canelo a hell of a fight?
A run. Yeah, exactly too. What if, and then Jamal freaking does that? But like I said, I just don't see it happening because of the layoff, you know. But that part, you know, I just see Canelo, you know, getting through that fight, you know, and yes, he's gonna get hit, but at the end of the day, too, I mean, going back to the Morrell Benavidez part, you know, like this fight will be easy to make, you know, just because, you know, Benavidez and Morrell are in the same. I mean, they've been in the same boat for the last 3 years now, you know, and. You know, I just feel this fight's going to be made. I mean,
Andrade is in the same. They're in the same.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. Andrade is in there too. You know, I could see him possibly too being a second fight if Morrell wins. You know, that's what I'm looking at too. You know, he could possibly be there, or maybe Jamal would want to come in and try if he gets past Zoo. You know, because that fight's already being ordered, and I think that fight will get done anyway. But
that's
gonna
be a while. Yeah.
That's gonna be a wild fight too. But hey. Go ahead.
We could see some awesome matchups, dude, with the PBC. And right now, I think there might be a little bit more pressure to get that payday. Now, people used to be able to wait, but if Canelo is on the slide, like, there's no guarantee that he's going to be in the industry in the next couple years, right? There's no guarantee that he's going to be able to give you those big old paydays, because if he's faded, I mean, people walk away from fighters quick, right? If you look at historically, like Chavez Sr., bro, like, I'm surprised how quickly they, you know, pay-per-view wise, like, you know, he kind of went away. You know, when you look at it historically, like, it's very hard to stay on top and just continue to have these huge, massive paydays for your opponent if you're not on top anymore. You might be able to do that for like a couple times, but like, I think that window to get the Canelo real paydays, like 10 million plus or whatever, very small, right? So these Andrades, Charlos, Benavidez, Morrell, they're going to have to start mixing it up to be first in line. Now, okay, so everybody wants the Benavidez fight. Okay, we want the Benavidez fight here too, right? Just so there's no confusion. We want the Benavidez fight, but how long has everybody been calling for the Benavidez fight? That's what I want to know. How long have we all been collectively calling for it? And then I also want to know, like, if we're talking how this is a business, and it is a business, Georgie, like, I want to know, like, do you think as a business that this fight should be held off until next year? Like, what are your overall thoughts on what I just had to say?
Yes, because now you add, I mean, you put in the factor of a 3-fight contract. Now, if there was no 3-fight contract, I believe this probably would have happened immediately. But I think, again, business, Canelo knows what he has. He knows that that PBC has the bigger names at 168. Those are the guys there. He can make a lot more money. He can make PBC a lot more money business wise. So yes, I think that it is a smart move. You know, of course, us being a little impatient, wanting it right away, but it's I just think that it's kind of, it's not too bad. I don't think it'll do bad. I think it'll do good. I think because of obviously it's pay-per-view. All these fights are going to be pay-per-view no matter who Canelo fights. So yeah, I don't see, I guess with the 3-fight contract, yeah, I think that makes sense of why, you know, if Benavidez isn't one of those 3, that he'd be pretty much the last one in the 3-fight there.
So Run PMC, based on your memory, okay, this is how I remember. You let me know what you think. This is how I remember it. Like, Canelo was taking care of his own business, right? Like, he took care of business at 160, right? Didn't work his way all the way down. People were crying for that Jamal Charlo fight. Canelo moves up 2 weight classes to 175, right? Then goes into litigation against Golden Boy. Comes out and makes his undisputed run. Like, my time frame, based on when everybody has been wanting the Benavidez fight, has not been that long. Now, a lot of people wanted the Billy Joe Saunders fight. A lot of people wanted the Plant fight. A lot of people were crying that Canelo did not go undisputed, right? He takes off a year, right, because he's in litigation, comes right out and goes undisputed. So if you ask me, I feel like the Benavidez fight really hasn't been like the fight everyone's been asking for all that long, in my opinion. That's just how I feel. Run, what are your recollections about it, and what do you think in general about it?
Yeah, that's about the same I remember. And I just wish Benavidez had the ability, after he lost the fight on the scale, after being in like one of the first bubbles, and they talked about all the things he wasn't allowed to do to make weight. I wish he was able to have his next fight be against, like, to try to retain or to win the belt again. That's what I wish, and I wish he would have been a part of that undisputed run. So I think what you said is correct, like just the recollection of events. But I just wish David Benavidez would have been a part of that, because I don't even know. I don't really even know his record. I think it was, for me, but it's hard because Canelo came back, what, end of 2021? Is that when he came back for Yildirim? Was that end of 2021?
I'll have to double check. I think it was around that time, yeah.
Okay, and I don't know how many belts that was for, but obviously at one point the WBC was vacant. So I just wish that Benavidez during that time would have been able to win that back, and then he would have been a part of it. But, you know, that's just how it is. Like, the WBC bows down to the big names, which is fine, just because it is what it is. But I don't know. I just think that's wishful thinking, but hopefully we could just get it now. But I would say this, I didn't get to touch on the last topic, but if with David Benavidez' family saying those, or his dad saying those things about Morrell, I think that's duck talk. But if Canelo were to fight, like, say he fights both Charlos and Spence, I think that's, and Benavidez remains unscathed or doesn't lose or something, I think that's ducking from Canelo at the same time. So, but from what Benavidez, his dad, is saying, I don't like that, because it's like, you're not even a big star anyway. And it's like, that always has been, if you're saying like, oh, this guy needs to earn this, he needs a belt for this, that's always just to a point ducking. So, but yeah, I just wanted to touch on that just because I wasn't able to touch on the last segment.
No, I mean, that's a great point. Like, in my opinion, if Canelo does not fight Benavidez within the next 3 fights, he's going the other way. It's obvious, right? I mean, you could call it what you like, but yeah, I guess I would call it a duck, right? I mean, if he wants to go and try to make like the big money fights, like, say, and people don't like this, right? But
route.
he might go the easy route and maybe the more lucrative route. Like I said, Julian's calling 1.1 million for the Charlo fight. If he sparks out one Charlo, then another Charlo, then a Spence, well, that's 3 fights, right? And
Right.
if Benavidez, and especially if he gets past Morrell, if he can get past Morrell, man, you know what? That's the other thing. I don't like this talk where some people are saying, well, Morrell's he's only got like 10 fights and Benavidez is going to fight him. Like, no, dude, you know what? Benavidez should get full credit for beating Morrell. Morrell looks like the goods. He looks like the goods to me, man. And like Julian says, like, if you ask me, like, I think he's the next guy. Canelo will have a real problem facing Morrell if Morrell's the guy to see. Okay. Right. But like I was saying, is an open question as to whether Morrell can take proper chingazos, right? He's never taken Canelo Alvarez type chingazos, so there's an open question. He's not just going to be able to style on Canelo the way he does with other people. Like, he's going to have to take his time going in there, although he does have a good coach in Ronnie Shields who knows Canelo very well. Go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, do we remember when Garville knocked down Benavidez, though?
Yeah.
I mean, that's way less power than this dude has.
Yeah, that was more of a flash, though.
It was. Yeah, it was a flash knockdown for sure. But I'm just saying, though, but like something, man, of this dude's caliber and power, I mean, it's kind of a little different than that.
For sure.
Flash knockdown. So, flash knockdown meaning that, like, it was just a quick knockdown, or are you saying you got caught off guard? Okay, because
there weren't they? It was a jab, right?
I don't remember if it was a jab, but to me it looked like he got put down. It wasn't like
it was a quick left hook. Bro. It was like a small left. It was quick, bro. It just happened so fast on David. Dude, I just remember that fight when Garville caught him real quick, and he was like, "What the hell?"
Okay,
like but he got up real quick. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, so it was a flash knockdown.
Yeah, that's because I thought Ron. I don't if I'm remembering correctly. I thought that fight was pretty close with Ronald Gavril and David Benavidez, and then I think he hired was it Ariza for the second fight, and then he just destroyed Gavril. Like it was bad.
Yeah, it was bad. It was a TKO, correct? Second fight, yeah, TKO.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, the first one was a split decision, but I've said this, dude. If you want to see like Benavidez's jab at its best, go back and watch those fights. The way he has like this offsetting, like really good, like off time jab and just crisp, man. His rhythm was just. He doesn't throw jabs like that anymore. Like, it's still one of his best assets, but the way he would just like, boom, like, you know, he would throw it so fast and you wouldn't even really see it coming because Benavidez had like a rhythm. And then he would just shoot this jab, really incredible jab early on in his career. Like I said, still one of his best assets, but he doesn't throw it like he used to, not in my opinion. So, I mean, you know, early Benavidez is quite impressive. And don't get me wrong, dude, I like Benavidez's style, you know, and you know, I do little slides like this and like this, you know, just to poke fun. The bubble wrap.
I did see that.
But I do like Benavidez's style, and if he's the next guy to see, the next Mexican, I will back him, right? But right now, I think he's a little untested, but it is the fight I want to see. But we haven't been calling for the Benavidez fight for all that long. And if you're talking business, there's more money to be made with other fighters. If you're talking business, this fight could be bigger next year. It's not like this fight has gone sour, right? I mean, right now the demand is high. People are like angry that we're not getting the Benavidez fight, and I understand, right? If you had to wait till next year, you'd still be excited about it. It's not like this fight has been taking forever to be made, right? That's my thing. Like, if it gets made next year, it only benefits Benavidez unless he's having trouble making the weight or he gets put down by Morrell first. But, you know, like we said, he might duck Morrell, right? I mean, I really don't know who else there is to see. Like, there's no, he is calling for a Munguia fight, which I think is kind of like selectively trying to find somebody who's feasible, right? But I mean, people are getting mad at the idea of Canelo fighting Munguia, right? Even though Munguia was the guy who gave Canelo this reputation of him avoiding Mexican fighters, right? I mean, that's just how it goes, right? With Canelo Alvarez, of course. But, you know, with Benavidez fighting Munguia, I didn't really hear too much pushback. I mean, everybody seems to be okay with that fight for some reason, right? It's okay for Benavidez to fight him, but not Canelo, even though the Canelo versus Munguia feud has history, right? If you think about it, Munguia has a better resume than Benavidez. Although, I mean, if you ask me, I think Benavidez obviously would probably beat Munguia. Although I think it would be a very good fight. It'd be entertaining. But I think that there's hardly anybody for Benavidez to fight at 168 other than Morrell.
Yeah, I would say though, as far as like the Benavidez fight, how long that's been it's been around pretty much like 2020, 2021. So like Run said, it was I think it would have been around the time that Canelo, he had the belts, because so when he lost the belts, Canelo wasn't. I don't think he was at 168 quite yet. And then once he lost those, then that's when I think he became the mandatory with Yildirim, which was 2021 Run. I did check that right now, that it was 2021. So and yeah, I think it has been one of those fights that's been out there, or it was, maybe they weren't calling it out. They were just more like, this is a possible opponent for Canelo, right? And like, as far as like the Billy Joe Saunders and plan, I think why fans were really calling that is because of the run of what Canelo was doing, right? He was running to get all the belts at that division. And of course they're in his way of getting those belts. But I think, at least in my opinion, I feel like it was the David Benavidez fight that has been called for some time, because of a possible opponent in the future for Canelo, because there was really nobody in talks besides the Triple G. Triple G was another one of those guys that everybody was wanting to see Canelo fight, and I think that's exactly pretty much when it happened. But I think it's had its I guess you could say like it's had its talk. People have, I think they've been having this fight since like 2021, because like I said, I looked at it, and Yildirim was actually Benavidez's mandatory, right? I think at one time, and then that's when Benavidez lost it, and then lost it on the scale, or lost the drug test, and then that's when Canelo ended up being the mandatory against Yildirim.
Right.
I have a question real quick with because so Canelo he went up to 175, beat Kovalev, and then was his WBA belt he had at 168, was that the legitimate belt, or was that like a minor belt WBA when he
against Fielding?
Yeah, was that a real one, or was that
that was a baby belt.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a baby belt.
Okay, so I just want to, do you guys think, do you think it's convenient that Canelo went after 168 undisputed after, I'm just wondering on the timing because I don't remember. Did Canelo declare his undisputed run at 168 before or after David Benavidez lost the belt on the scales?
Well, okay, here's my opinion on, you guys can tell me what you guys think next. Like, based, on the history, Canelo was in litigation, right?
Right.
And they settled, okay? But there was no information as to when it was going to be settled, okay? Now he was starting to work with Eddie Hearn, and I remember Eddie Hearn telling Callum Smith, the #1 ranked lineal Ring Magazine super middleweight champion, okay? He said, hey, get ready. We might have this fight if Canelo settles with Golden Boy, he's going to come out of the bat. Now, at this time, Benavidez, within that year, that's when he lost. Canelo was inactive, and then Benavidez got stripped, okay? And then he came out, and the one thing is, I'll say this, is like, it's not like Canelo's gone back down to 168, or excuse me, to 160. He stayed at 168. He tried to go up to 175 again to face Bivol, right? But it's not like he's gone back down. So that might be his natural weight. Now, when we entertain ideas like Canelo versus Spence, I think generally we agree that it might be too much for Canelo just to cut weight to 160. Like, I don't really think he can go there anymore. So I think his intention was to campaign at 168 regardless. I do think that it was something that Canelo had not done, which was to go undisputed. Some people are going like, oh, people are using undisputed now. Like, that might be right to an extent, but everybody was clamoring, well, Canelo hasn't gone undisputed, right? Nobody was happy with what Canelo did at 154. Nobody was happy with what he did at 160 because he didn't go undisputed, right? So he did it, and now it's kind of like, oh, that was selective. Might have been selective, but then again, like, okay, if we're talking about history, when has Canelo been scared of anybody? I can't think of a time where I thought, oh, Canelo doesn't want that smoke. Like, he's faced bigger boogeymen before, right? I think stylistically, he's had bigger problems against a Lara, right? Against a Mayweather, right? I think he's faced tougher opponents, more menacing, looming boogeyman type opponents in Golovkin. Like Benavidez, he's kind of like underneath those guys. And in my opinion, I don't even necessarily know. Well, I think it'd be like maybe a top 5 win, maybe a top 6. And that's the other thing too. Like the longer this fight is delayed, and say it doesn't happen, say it's delayed or it doesn't happen at all. Like, are we really going to get that angry in the future? What do you think, George?
That's a good question. I mean, if looking at it, there's been opportunities that this fight could have happened, right? It could have happened. It could have happened instead of doing this 3-fight deal. It could have been next. Benavidez has come out in the same video where he said that he would entertain the Munguia fight. In that same video, he also said that he's been the mandatory for 2-3 years. So he could have had that fight 2-3 years ago. Of course, what did Benavidez have? He didn't have a belt, but then again, he did have a ranking. He could have been a title defense, right? Because I mean, that's what you're gonna do at the division you unified or you became undisputed. Is you're gonna either continue to defend that belt or move up, get that next belt. So I think his overall piece of work. I mean, we're gonna, of course. I think just like we look back at Mayweather, we could have said, well, what happened to the Margarito fight? It would have been this, it could have been that, but no one's really gonna hold it. I don't think no one would really hold it over Canelo's head. But at the same time, I think it would have been like a what if, and yes, it is a little disappointing that it could have happened, but it did not happen.
All right. So it seems to me like people are already picking sides. Now, we even have Latinos in the chat, right? Nando, it seems to me like he's pretty clear, even though he's Mexican just like us. We know he's rolling with Canelo. Seems to me like Julian is also rolling with Canelo. Okay. Joe Lopez 40 ounce doing the same thing. Now, Philly, well, he's Irish, right? But he's rolling with Canelo too. It seems like, it's the most natural thing in the world to be rooting for one fighter over the other. It just is. That's just how it goes. Okay. So, Run, who would you be rooting for when Canelo and Benavidez throw down, assuming they do?
That's a good one. I would say, just from an underdog standpoint, I'd probably be going for Benavidez. But I feel like that sometimes is a natural thing that might happen, is like sometimes you want to see the champions lose, right? Once they've been around for a while. But I would say from an underdog standpoint, it would probably be Benavidez. But I mean, I just need to see how will I be picking him. I'll just have to see how Canelo looks in the two preceding fights. If Benavidez makes it, both of them, how they look. But I would probably say Benavidez. I mean, he's young. Will he be the next face of boxing? I mean, that remains to be seen. I would doubt it, just because boxing, it's not like you can hand over the reins anymore, though. Like when Floyd Mayweather beat Oscar De La Hoya, it was like the reins were handed to him, and then Manny Pacquiao exploded when Floyd Mayweather was like in his retirement or whatever, that 2 year like after the Hatton fight. But I don't know. But I would say Benavidez, just because I want to see. It would be nice just to see the pot stirred a little, and then that sets up a rematch. Because if it's a competitive fight, and then Canelo comes out on top, whether it's like late stoppage or he gets the victory on points, do you think Canelo, if that's the third fight, will give Benavidez a rematch? But on the other side, do you think Canelo, if Benavidez wins, obviously I think there would be a rematch, right? But do you think it would be on the other end, that if it's a close fight but Canelo ekes it out, there'll be a Benavidez rematch?
I don't think so, man. I think that Canelo's going to go, okay, got that one. I'm just going to go make some more money with somebody else. That's what I think.
Thank you. He's going to say, I'm gone.
Dude, yeah, thanks. You get your chance, man. You get a chance. I'm going to go make some money. Okay, now Nando here has said something pretty interesting. He says he's rooting for Benavidez, but man up 100. That surprises me, Nando. So you're calling him a duck, but you would naturally root for Benavidez over Canelo. Now, Georgie, he's a local Arizonian. I don't know if that's how you say it, right? But Georgie, I know you have, you root for one over the other, right? It's just one or the other. It's just naturally how we root for people in boxing. Now, if Canelo versus Benavidez goes down, who will you be rooting for, brother?
Okay. I mean, officially, I'm from California. So, I've been here in Arizona since I was like 12, 13 years old.
San Diego.
San Diego. So
that's even worse, bro.
Oh, hey, come on now.
Nah,
it should be its own state. It should be its own state. It's shit, man. Like I always, like any kind of fight, I always tell people, okay, I'm going to give you two picks, right? I'm going to give you my heart, what my heart tells me, and then what my betting wallet tells me who I'm going to bet on. But this one right here, this is, it's going to be hard for me to really pick. I think, honestly, if this fight was to happen, I think I could see myself cheering for the entertainment. Like if Canelo had a moment and then Benavidez has his moment. Like this is like one of those fights I don't really want to choose. I really wouldn't want to choose. But I agree with Run. Like, when we see a guy that's been a champion for so long, you want to see him fight, of course, the best. And then you got the new younger guy wanting to prove that what he could do. And Benavidez, just like Morrell, he looks promising. He looks like he can do something. And even though Benavidez is not full Mexican, I mean, he claims that he's you can claim whatever you want. I mean, obviously he wants to be Mexican. That's pretty much what he was raised by. So I hate when people say, oh, the Ecuadorian monster, whatever, but people don't. I mean, look, if you were half Mexican, half white, you're raised, white or whatever, like that's who you grew up with. I think same thing with Benavidez. He grew up in a Mexican household. So he claims to be Mexican. So I think Mexican, right? There's another name, Virgil Ortiz. He's another one of those guys, but we really don't know where his career is going. Hopefully, it turns out for something. But enough of the ranting, man. I think if I had to choose, for the sake of being able to carry on boxing, because I don't see Canelo fighting out of these next three fights, because these are the guys here at 168. What is he going to do? Get another fight against Bivol after going through 3 tough fights at 168? I don't see it happening. I think after these 3, I think that's it. For the sake of boxing, I think I would want to see the torch carried on to Benavidez, and I would have to be rooting for Benavidez if I had to choose.
The young lion, right? I mean, hey, there's always the next person to see, and Father Time is undefeated. So Nando here is clarifying that no, actually, he would be rooting for Canelo over anyone, but he wants Benavidez to earn his respect. 100 and pop with the drop. Welcome, brother. And he says, if I'm Benavidez, I'll be mad as hell right now, not getting that Canelo bag. Now you got no one else to fight but David Morrell. Well, he can be pissed off all he wants, man. He's got to wait in line. Now, here's my thing. Like, obviously, I'm a Canelo fan. Now, I mainly wear the gear, right? Just because I think there's nothing to be ashamed about, right? And so I wear just to make a point. It's not like I'm like this crazy Canelo fan, although I am a fan of his, right? Now, I think that the YTBC has too many like police out there, right? Telling us like, oh, you can't be rooting for fighters. That's foolish. I think it's a natural orientation to be rooting for fighters. I think that the LDBC does it right when they root for their fighters, man. They just do it sin vergüenza, right? They're okay with it, man. Just roll with their fighters. They're happy even if it's a cherry pick, right? And it's like, well, you know, if Canelo fights a Charlo, I'm just going to enjoy it. Now, and also, Georgie, Julian, and myself are of a like age, right? Run PMC, he's the young gun here, the young hired gun here. But like, we're all of that age where it's like, I don't know. To me, I'm getting to a point where it's like, I like seeing the older guy be able to pull it off. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of have like the sympathetic thing towards the old lion still holding it down, right? I think back to like, and I graduated college just a little late, but back in my college days, like I remember Canelo, I remember Crawford, right? And it's nice seeing these guys that are still around, that are still at that elite level. It's very hard to find fighters like that. Like, if you take it to football, and that's probably the only other sport that I used to watch it. I don't watch it as much now, right? But like all like the Favres, Brady's, Peytons, Breeze, like they're all gone, man. It's just like a whole new generation of people, which is fine because that's what happens, right? So it's like, it's very respectable that these guys are still performing at the very elite level, right? And still have very good records, So to me, it is going to be a little sad when the torch is passed, just like I was sad when Pacquiao couldn't pull the trigger anymore. Floyd, he retired on his own terms, and you got to respect that. You know what I'm saying? But I do think that if Canelo decides to not fight Benavidez, there will be some immediate backlash. But like I said, now we don't think about Mayweather going like, well, he didn't fight Thurman. He didn't fight Thurman, right? I mean, like at the time when Thurman was the man to see, that would have been the best fight at the time, right? But people aren't really that riled up about it anymore, especially if a Thurman goes and loses to a Pacquiao. It doesn't look that great against a Josecito. Like people start forgetting how bad that guy was at the time. Kind of like how people think that Chavez Jr. didn't have a prime. He had a prime. I thought he was pretty good against, was it Andy Lee? Like at the time, people think he's a joke now, but at the time, there was a little bit of a time where he was a top middleweight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that, if it doesn't happen, like there will be some immediate backlash and it will be a duck. I'm calling it a duck. But I just think that Benavidez's window, as far as like, say that the torch gets passed to him or does not get passed to him, like, I don't think he's just going to be able to take it and roll with it for many years like Canelo did. I think that his ceiling is 168. It might be over the moment he fights Morrell. If he goes up and fights a Bivol, it's over. If he goes up and fights a Beterbiev, it's probably over. Like, I just don't think that his reign, if he gets it, I don't think he's just going to be able to take it and run with it. I think it'll be like a quick, like, like one-term president type thing where he's going to take over and then it's just going to, somebody else is going to take over after that. And it will have been a short reign. That's how I feel about it.
That's bold. Anything can happen, right? I mean, I think if we are really sold on the Morrell, like if Morrell's really the goods, I mean, from the eye test, right? We always say passing the eye test. There's been many fighters throughout history or over the last even like 10, 15 years that have passed the eye test. But once it came to stepping up and coming in against somebody with experience always wins, right? I mean, I think that is an interesting thing, like you said, the Chicano. I could see maybe like 2 defenses, maybe depending on who Canelo's fought and who's in the ranking. But there's always, in every division, there's always going to be those 1 or 2 guys, or even 3 that are that haven't fought quite yet. So I could see him defending it a few times, and if he does eventually step in, against Morrell or whoever the next guy is, or him going up to 175, Beterbiev, I think he doesn't have very much time. I think just if the super fight is Bivol, that'd be a very interesting fight too. Those two guys have history, so
Then he'll be the new executioner, man, if Bivol does that. Hey, Julian, real quick before we go to Philly Irish, Julian, I know that you were saying that maybe you had to possibly go at the top of the hour. We're not going to stay on too much longer, bro. But did you need to wrap up?
Yeah, right now a little bit. We're good. We're good.
All right. Well, I want to welcome Philly Irish Drew Evo, who's here. Drew, welcome, brother. We're giving some parting final thoughts.
Hey.
You know what I'm saying? We got Run PMC here, bro. I know you haven't talked to him in a while. We got Julian. We got Georgie. What's happening, brother?
I think, it's a shame. I think a lot of these interviews that Sampson does, he's a little bit drunk up a little bit. Like, it's like the whole team Benavidez is in shambles because it's different. Everybody says something different. Like, oh, we got a fight with Morrell signed. No, we don't. I didn't sign up for that fight. You hear from me, it's 100. That's what David Benavidez says. Jose Benavidez. Oh, we're looking at this, we're looking at that. Oh, I think we're going to look at Morrell. Wasn't it last year? Was it Sampson that said that we need like $7 to $10 million to fight Demetrius Andre?
That's
and
right.
then he came back a couple of weeks ago saying
Thank
that
you.
he
Thank
doesn't
you.
draw anything.
Thank you.
That's a duck. It's like they're looking at different reasons to duck certain fighters that's bad for David. And the Morrell fight is really bad for David. Boo Boo's bad for David. Here's the thing. You want to know what was wrong with Caleb Plant in that fight against David Benavidez? He did have a lot of success against Benavidez. You know what the main issue was? He didn't have power to keep David Benavidez honest and everything, to back him off. And if you get a fighter that can box his ass off, that has power, David Benavidez is a sitting duck.
That's good stuff, man. You know what? That's a good observation, Philly. Okay, now here's the other thing I want to talk about, like Samson Likowitz and the Benavidez fanboys. And we're fans of Benavidez too, right? Nothing wrong with being a Benavidez fan, right? But the Benavidez fanboys have single-handedly introduced manager worship into the YTBC, and I find it disturbing. Okay, now I've heard a rumor, and I don't know if this is true, but I just want to put it out there for anybody who might be listening, that there's ways that these like Samson Likowitz people can, worshipers can identify each other. Okay, now if you wear a shirt, right, and you take off the first two buttons, that's an indicator to somebody else who might have it that same way that you also worship Samson. Okay, now if you wear like a medallion, right? Well, this is a family show, so I won't get into what you're willing to do if you're wearing that medallion as well. But all I could say is, you got to be careful. Don't go into a room alone with these guys. That's all I'm saying. That's just what I've heard. Okay, it's just a rumor. All right. All right, man. Well, we're going to wrap it up, dude. Run PMC. Brother, it was good having you on. Do you have any final thoughts about anything? Or also, maybe we could talk about Berlanga real quick. Any final thoughts, brother?
No, I'm just glad the fights are going to happen, hopefully, and that Canelo is where all the other guys at 168 are going to be, and hopefully we just get the fights we want. But Berlanga, I mean, I have nothing to say about him.
Okay.
Me neither.
Damn. Okay, now Georgie, Philly, you're calling the upset on this one tonight, right?
On what?
On Munguia and your Irish brethren, Quigley.
Oh, Quigley's beating Berlanga. That's not an upset because Berlanga ain't shit.
Well, that's true. He's not. He's not much. He's not much. Okay.
Come on, the taxi
Georgie.
cab drivers are going now. The
Thank you.
speed-level fighters are going now. He hasn't knocked anybody out. Came close to knocking anybody out since he moved up in competition.
Also, and I hate being a hater, right? And it's like I just noticed this stuff because Berlanga, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? Because I can't grow hair on the top of my head, right? But Berlanga had the inability to grow in a beard, and now he's got like a beard all of a sudden. I could tell he got the implants done, right? I mean, this guy's his vanity knows no bounds, right?
Got that daddy Yankee look going on right now.
Yeah, dude, he got the plugs in, the chin plugs, which I hear is a thing these days. All right, Georgia, any final thoughts for us, brother?
I mean, it's the same thing. Like, I mean, it's Berlanga. It wouldn't surprise me if Quigley wins, bro. But it's to kill some time. Boxing. I know the Franco fight happened earlier, but it's boxing. I mean, of course I'm gonna tune in. I don't have to pay for it, so.
Which, well, you know, we already told you guys, but yeah, that fight was crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Well, everybody enjoy the fights. You know, we want to thank everybody for coming by to see us, you know, and well, for Georgie, Julian, Run PMC, and Philly Irish, we are out of here. Everybody have a great weekend. Peace.